Welcome back to another edition of the FSU Simicast. I apologize for any audio issues. I'm actually doing this in my truck on the road. So if it sounds like I'm in a car, or a vehicle rather, I am. Anyways, the obvious news that I would like to talk about. A couple things, actually. Malik Henry transferring, and as of this morning, Florida's defensive coordinator, Geoff Collins, is leaving to become the head coach at Temple University. First, Malik Henry. If you followed any of the websites that cover FSU, you probably knew that this was coming. As many of you probably know, he was suspended, right before the season began? And was so until at least halfway through the year. And he was kind of a risky take when Jimbo took him. I mean, I think he attended at least 3 high schools. And the last one he was at the second to the last one he was at was IMG. And the coaches really didn't get into what the issue was, why he was going back to California. But if you're reading between the lines, it was probably because he was getting into some kind of trouble. And the trouble he may or may not have gotten to at FSU, there's been a bunch of rumors, and I'm really not going to indulge them. You could probably guess what what happened if you've been following this. Yeah, the kid just needs to get his head straight. He's got all the talent in the world. If you watch the spring game, I mean, he was just accurate. The poise in the pocket, just looks so comfortable throwing the ball. What does this do to the team going into next year? Well, it doesn't really affect the depth chart as far as on the field. I mean, he was already buried on the depth chart. He weighs like 165 pounds. So, I mean, he likely wasn't going to see the field anytime soon, but what it obviously does affect is the depth. Now, if Francois gets hurt next year and goes down for any length of time, the next man up is JJ Cosentino, who sucks dick. He's just awful. Smag's obviously graduated, and there's been a lot of attrition at the QB position these last few years. I mean, let's think about it. Trickett transferred, and rightfully so. Jameis took over. Trickett was never going to see the field again. Same with Coker the following year after the national title. He left for the same reason. I'm not going to see the field with Jameis. And then, of course, the QB that was in the same class as Francois, he got dismissed from the team for punching a chick on camera. God, who else am I forgetting? Of course, now you have Henry transferring. So there's been a lot of attrition, and now the depth is indeed an issue. Because other than Cosentino, FSU will have 2 true freshmen. One is Hockman, who's a 4-star left-handed quarterback. He's an early enrollee, and sadly, even as a true freshman, the fact that he's an early enrollee will probably make him better than JJ anyways, which is so sad. And then there's Blackman, who's a 3-star prospect, and he's more of a project from what I read. He's a little more raw. He's really skinny, if you ever look at a picture of him. So the options aren't good after Francois. If he goes down, you can kiss any chance at a college football playoff berth. It's just none of the other QBs on the roster are going to take FSU there. It's just not going to happen. Francois might not even take him there next year. We'll have to see how the team shapes up. So I'm wondering if they'll take another quarterback in this cycle and go with 3, which isn't normal. I mean, to go for 3, that's quite a bit. Or will they say, you know what, Blackman, maybe you should go elsewhere, just kind of nicely say that, and go after maybe a more polished, maybe a higher rated quarterback, like another 4-star. I don't know. Maybe there's not enough time in the recruiting cycle for them to do that. But depth is a concern now. But Francois, if he's proven anything, he's durable. I mean, this year he took so many freaking shots. And you'd like to think the offensive line, which showed some progression in pass protection towards the end of the year, you'd like to think they'd take a step next year and they'd be a little better. And you'd also like to think Francois would do the same fucking thing. and not hold on to the ball and take sacks, because we know that not all the sacks were on the O-line. He definitely held on to the ball too many times. And what we don't know is how many sacks were caused by him not making the right checks at the line of scrimmage and setting the correct protections. Who knows? So if both he and the line continue to progress, he should stay healthy for an entire season, because if he could stay healthy past this past season, in which he just got annihilated time and time again, then he should be able to do the same next year. Cross your fingers on that. Okay, well, that's enough about Malik Henry. Good luck to him, man. The kid's talented. You know, the red flags were there, but sometimes you still take that risk when there's a talent. Moving on to Florida's defensive coordinator. He is taking the head coaching job at Temple. Now, it's going to sound like I'm some FSU, fanboy that's just bashing on the Gators, but I'm trying to see what this means. How's it going to affect the Gators? Now, I think even if Collins stayed, the defense was going to take a step back regardless. Okay? I think what Collins sees is the writing on the wall. Look, a coach's resume is essentially built on wins and losses, and if you're a coordinator, usually stats and where you rank. He sees that there's an outside shot, there's a potential for UF to lose 10 starters on defense. 10! That is fucking incredible. Now, how likely 10 goes, or 10 leave, I'm not sure. I don't follow UF that closely to know, but let's say 8 leave, or 7, whatever. That's still an insane amount. So he knows that this defense is not going to put up the numbers it did this past year. I mean, it can't. How could it? Unless you're Bama, that, has a 3 deep of 4 and 5 stars. How the hell do you replace possibly 10 players on one side of the ball? So I'm guessing he said, might as well get out while the getting's good, because my resume might take a hit next year if we fall to, let's say, a top 30 defense instead of a top 5. Still a solid defense, but obviously that's a huge drop. And this was kind of a debate on Twitter between myself, another FSU fan, and 2 Gators. And we're like, look, Shannon, who might be the new defensive coordinator there, he might get promoted from within, is a fine coach, at least as far as defensive coaches go. A solid recruiter. I think 24/7 Sports has him currently ranked as the 48th best recruiter, so a top 50 recruiter. But the point really wasn't, okay, Collins is leaving, the defense is going to fall. It's no, Collins is leaving because, he has the opportunity, and another school wants him, and B, this is probably the apex of his career where he can move on to a head coaching gig at a smaller place, and then, of course, probably use that as a stepping stone to a bigger school. But to get out of that coordinator position, now is a good year because, as I said, they're losing so much on defense. I don't care what coach you have, Shannon, whoever that's going to replace him. You can't make up for that attrition. That's insane. If FSU was losing that many people on defense, you can bet your ass, I would say, wow, our defense is not going to be anywhere near as good as it was this past year. I mean, how can it? Now, I'm sure the Gators have some talented guys that are up and coming. That's fine, but can they make up for all that they could lose? No, it's just not realistic to think that. So this Gator fan's like, oh, our defense has always been top 20 for the past. Well, that's fine. What did the past 5, 6, 7, 10 years have to do with 2017? Did those defenses have possibly 10 guys leave? I doubt it. Moreover, is their recruiting on that side of the ball up to snuff to handle that? And if you read any of the recruiting websites, no, it's not. Recruiting in general at UF has fallen under McElwain, but the defensive recruiting, especially, is nowhere near where Muschamp had it. Muschamp had a crappy offense, and his recruiting classes were usually top 10 or around top 10, But they were because mainly all the blue chippers were on the defensive side of the ball. Like, when you look at their classes, like, okay, they have, 10 blue chippers. 7 would be on defense or something like that. Like, almost without fail, you look at his classes and they'd all be on the defensive side of the ball. Well, Muschamp's guys are starting to leave. They're starting to graduate. They're going to declare, yada, yada, yada. And it sounds like McElwain's not bridging that gap because he's not recruiting all those 4 and 5 stars at the level Muschamp was, at least on the defensive side of the ball. And some Gators might say, hey man, we've had like a top 10 class last year and we're 13 right now and 24/7. UF is capable of so much more than that. UF should be able to get a top 5 class, at least a top 10 in their sleep. And this is not like just my biased FSU opinion. No, this is what I keep hearing on multiple recruiting analysts. Like, McElwain's doing a decent job, but he's not doing a good a job as a head coach should do at UF when it comes to recruiting. It is what it is. That's what's going on. We'll see how they finish their current class, but I'm telling you right now, that defense will take a step back. It has to. I mean, this is not, I'm not conjuring some bullshit up and, to try and put UF down. I mean, that's a lot of people are going to lose. So Shannon or whoever steps in for Collins, like, good luck, man. I mean, the defense is probably not going to fall off the map. They probably still have enough talent to be solid, but is it going to be good enough to carry what figures to be an average at best offense? And that's assuming the offense improves and finds a quarterback. And that's a big assumption considering the QB carousel that's been going on at UF for the past 6-7 years. That's a big if. So the dude that was talking about UF's going to blah, 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 like, dude, I would quell your expectations for next year. Because if the defense drops back some, that means the offense has to jump up quite a bit. Instead of being ranked in the 80s, 90s, or wherever they're ranked, they have to at least get in the top half, top 60 schools, top 50. Can they do that? I don't know. So, we'll see, man. A couple names leaving from 2 of the biggest schools in the state of Florida. So, interesting. Well, thanks for listening. If you're a first-time visitor, feel free to subscribe. This has been another Florida State Simicast. I'm out.